So in this video, I'm going to show you how to fix a flat tire on a bicycle tire. Mine happens to be an MTB. Obviously, I've taken the wheel off of the bike and I have it here. The first step before you start is it's a good idea to take a Sharpie and mark the position of the valve stem with respect to where it sits on the tire. Like, I don't know if it might be hard to see, but I always mark that. And I'll tell you why that is later. It's mostly to figure out how you got the flat to begin with. Anyhow, so to start changing the tire, get the wheel off the bike, and the next step is to let all of the air out. So I have a Schrader valve, as you can see, and you can just depress this to release the air. But I'm just using a valve core removal tool. This one is made by Motion Pro, but there are lots of those. So let all of the air out. In my case, I did get a flat. So I did get a flat, and I got the tube out, I patched it, put it back in, it's holding pressure fine, but I'm just not comfortable running a patched tube. So I'm going to replace it with a new tube and use the patched one as a spare. And I'm just going to put the valve core back in so I don't lose it. Like I said, I'm going to throw this tube in my backpack as a spare. Alright, so that's gone in. The next step is to just push the tire in from all sides, from both sides, all over. This just unseats the tire from the wheel. It's pretty simple. And then you start peeling the tire off. I like to start a bit away from the valve stem. As you can see, I'm using a tire iron. You wouldn't want to use this. You would actually use a bicycle tire lever that are made from plastic. They're pretty cheap, but I don't have one, so I'm just going to use this. And then you can just use your fingers, just get the tire all the way out. That's it. It's really straightforward. Then I simply hold it this way, get the valve stem out. You don't want to rip that, otherwise you'll just ruin the tube. And then just peel the tire off. That's it. It comes out real simple. It's real easy. You don't even need a tire spoon really, but if you have the tire lever, and go ahead and take the tube out. As you can see, mine's patched right there. Like I said, it's holding fine, and people run these all the time, and that's fine. I'm just not comfortable running patch tubes. Alright, now the next thing is to grab the replacement tube. I decided to go with a slightly heavier duty thorn resistant one. I bought this for about $16, I think, at REI. And then you get this back into the tire. So just go ahead and insert it into the tire all around. The most common way to damage a tube while installing a new tire is because the tube might be sticking out a little bit, and when you install this on the wheel, on the rim, you might have a part of the tube sticking out. So just make sure it's in all the way. Grab the wheel, align the valve stem, and in my case this is a rotational tire, so it's important to check the direction of rotation. It'll be marked on here. So there it is. So the tire is rotating this way, which means the disc should be down this way. Alright, open the valve cap, get the valve stem started right here. Oh, this is another, talking of ways to damage tubes, this is another way, not having the valve stem aligned. If it's crooked, you can rip it off. So make sure it's nice and straight. And then I put this cap on. It's only to make sure the tube doesn't slip out. So I put the cap on right there. Right, as you can see, it's almost on. And all right, so it's on. I'm just going to make sure it's seated all the way and that the tube is all the way inside. I want to make sure there's no tube sticking out anywhere. And as you can see, it goes on pretty easy. I didn't even have to use a tire lever or tire spoon or anything. It's super straightforward. Make sure the stem is straight, which it is. And then the next thing is just to fill it up. Alright, so the tire itself is good to go, the tube is good to go, it seems to be holding pressure just fine. I did want to talk about one other thing. I think when you get a flat tire, it's really important to figure out why you got the flat to begin with. And the main reason for that is if it's because of a nail or a thorn or something, and if you do not remove that from the tire, you're just going to damage the other tube also. You're going to get another flat. So it's really important to figure that out. And if it's like a pinch flat, which kind of looks like a snake bite, or if it's a blowout, those are easier. You see it, you know it's because of low pressure or whatever, and you can correct it. The difficult ones are pinholes. If you find a pinhole in your tube, it's important you figure out what caused it, and then most likely it's still in your tire and you need to remove it. This is where at the beginning of the video I said, before you take the tube out of the tire, it's a good idea before you do anything else is to mark the relative position of the valve stem on the tire itself with a Sharpie. And you can see I had made a mark here. Of course it's not aligned anymore because I installed the tube again, but it's a good idea to just mark that. So just mark it on the tire where the valve stem sits, and that way if you cannot figure out what caused the flat and you take the tube out, the first thing I do is I try to fill air in it, and if it's a pinhole, it will hold air, and then you can just feel for and listen to where the air is leaking from, and you'll find a pinhole. And then you need to figure out where in the tire there could be a nail or a thorn or a piece of glass or whatever. And that's where that mark comes in handy. So what you can do is, if you cannot figure out what caused the flat, you identify the pinhole, and then you put the tube back on top of the tire this way and align the valve stem to the mark that you made. So you know which way the tube was sitting in the tire before you took it out. And now you know where the pinhole is. So in my case it was right here. So then I would go right here on the tire and see if there's anything in there. And if you still cannot see anything, it's a good idea to run your fingers on the inside of the tire, and usually you'll feel it. You'll feel something right there. And if that doesn't work also, another tip is to use a ball of cotton, and then you just take that cotton ball and you move that on the inside. You just rub the tire on the inside with that, and even if there's a slightest of thorn or whatever, some part of the cotton will snag on it and you will see it, and that's how you know where the thing is. And then usually you'll be able to just see it here on the surface, like a small thorn or something that you missed, and then you can just take needle nose pliers and remove it. So that's exactly what I did for this flat here. I just by inspecting the tire, I couldn't really tell, and then thankfully I had this mark, so I aligned them and I could see a small thorn, and it was so fine that on the inside I couldn't even feel it. So I'm glad I put the mark on, because like I said, if I just simply put a new tube in, that thorn would have made a pinhole in that one too. But yeah, that's just my little tip to figure out what gave you a flat to begin with.